Hey, wake up! It's time to start the show. Glad to see you all aboard Mouse Ears in Paradise. Let's get this show rolling.
Welcome to Mouse Ears in Paradise. I am Dave.
And I'm Becky. Hello, everybody.
Welcome to today's episode. Today, if you haven't already figured it out by looking at the podcast title, it's going to be about the Expo.
It's a surprise!
Yes, the D23 Expo. But maybe you're listening to just them all in a row and you're driving along, you're not paying attention to your phone like you're not supposed to pay attention to your phone and you just didn't know what was coming up. We're going to be talking about the D23. Well, it's not the Expo, the D23 Ultimate Fan Experience presented by Visa, because it's not an Expo anymore.
That's right.
I don't really know why, but everybody still called it the Expo.
Were the Ultimate fans all there?
I think so.
That's true. It is this is like me still calling Fast Pass when it's had 4 iterations since it was Fast Pass, and the entire family still knows what that means. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Yeah, so I don't know why they changed it. I think it'll always be the Expo for the OGs. For better or worse, it will be always the Expo, and it's certainly easier and faster to say than
the Ultimate Fan Experience.
Yeah. And just calling
presented.
And so, and even I think I was talking to somebody, and they're like, well, even if they're trying to just brand it as like D23, but D23 is.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, this is a portion of it. This isn't D23, right? So
right.
It's kind of an interesting choice.
It is interesting.
I don't know if they'll continue that on, but we'll see.
Huh. My mind is blown.
Regardless, 2024 was another year for the D23 experience.
You went.
I went, and I took Annika for her first time to a D23 event, perhaps, I guess, especially to a convention of this size. We've done smaller, local, regional cons, and nothing to this scale. I tried to prepare her emotionally, physically, in whatever ways, and she still wasn't. Like, she still was like, there's way more waiting in lines than I expected.
She was able to hang with Expo Dave, though.
She was able to hang. She enjoyed it. She loved it. We were going to have her join this episode, but she decided to opt out, and that is her prerogative. Too much pressure, I think. Maybe someday, but she wasn't ready for that today. But she really enjoyed it, wants to do it again. She would have kept going, even though she was exhaused. She did not want to admit it. She was burned out. And we did not do Expo Dave style. We did Annika style, which I did what she wanted to do. This was her first time. I wanted to do it at her pace, and do the things she wanted to see. I wanted to make sure she had the experience of D23 that she would want.
I'm curious, what's the difference between Expo Dave style and like what she wanted to do?
So she was a completionist for the show floor.
Yeah, she was.
She literally was crossing everything off on the map to make sure we had seen everything that we wanted to see. There were some things we were like, do we need to go to the Disney weddings?
Not this year.
Booth? No, we don't need to go that. So we're just going to cross that off. So there were a few things like that where it's like, this is completely irrelevant. Like, I have zero interest in seeing this. But for the most part, we at least walked past, if not participated in every single booth on the show floor, which is not something I do. Usually I will do, if it's convenient and I'm walking by, sure, then I'll check it out. But otherwise, I'm not going to wait in line to do that kind of thing. I'm going to do 3 to 5 panels every day.
Yeah.
Whereas we did, I think, probably 1 panel a day on average, 1 to 2. So it was a bit different.
Okay, that's fair.
And so, yeah, there was a lot of time on the show floor waiting in these booth lines. There was one particular thing that was put on by Disney Plus and Hulu, which is you had to go, or you didn't have to, but you could go around and collect 10 different pins by going to these 10 different booths. So one was Freeform, one was Hulu, one was Disney Plus, one was FX, et cetera, et cetera. And so going around and collecting all those, and then you could be entered each time you went to one, you could be entered into a sweepstakes. And then, of course, being the completionist to get all of them was kind of.
She got some cool pins.
We got some great pins. It was cool. So like one of them was Only Murders in the building.
That one's pretty neat.
The Abbott Elementary. There was the 31 Nights of Halloween.
Yeah, that one's cool. Yeah.
So they're cool pins. But yeah, so that consumed a fair amount of our time was doing that kind of stuff and going through all these booths, because this was, she didn't know what she didn't know and didn't know what to expect, so she kind of had to absorb all this. I don't know that she would necessarily do the same thing next time. I have no idea, but at least she could go in with a more informed idea of what it might be like. So yeah. But the show floor was much bigger than years past and much, I think, more spread out and better line management, with the exception of one, which was Lorcana. Created a huge mess where they had to shut off and block one of the main avenues of the show floor because there was such chaos. And so they ended up the second day starting to do timed wristbands for people to go to the Lorcana booth. But yeah, that was the probably biggest, worst situation I saw line wise, which then had a ripple effect of people got stuck outside because they basically were like, okay, we're going to shut off bringing people into the building till we've managed this Lorcana situation, and then we're going to let people in. So there were people sitting outside unable to get in for like half an hour in the sun and frustrated by that. And so like, yes, there was drama that was in lines and they were outside, but for the most part, I think that's the worst that I think I saw or heard about. Overall, there was much less line drama this year because the big events were usually what drew the line drama. And with those events being off-site and at night and totally separate, that was a non-issue. But it does mean that all those people instead were trying to get onto the show floor. So having the show floor being bigger and all that did help, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Overall, it was busy. It was a lot of people.
Sounds like an expo. I'm just glad you have a partner to go with you now.
Yeah. No, it was good, and she definitely has been asking me to take her next time. So
yeah, she was into it. Yeah. So, what are your panels? Tell me about some of the panels you enjoyed.
Yeah, so one of the ones I went to that we got the RSP, so the reservation for, was the Pioneering Women of Disney Animation. I was looking forward to it, but I was a bit disappointed with it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't what I expected.
Okay.
So it missed my expectations, and that's probably my fault more than anybody's.
It was put on by D23, not by like the Women in Animation.
It was done by the Walt Disney Animation Research Library.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And so what they were, I had kind of anticipated, okay, we're going to be learning about Alice Davis and Mary Blair and all these kind of old school people. Well, we did learn a little bit about those, but they also would be, okay, Mary Blair was this awesome person, and have kind of a quick snapshot of them, and then say, here's some people that are still pioneering in that area now, which is great. I nothing against the people that are doing it today. It's more of that meant there was the time slice meant that there was just that much fewer time to talk about the people that I was curious about.
Sure.
And wanting to hear more about kind of the OG, the originals, the older ones. Again, I have nothing against the new ones. And again, that was just my expectation and not anybody's fault, probably than my own. But it was just a little disappointing. That it just meant everything was really short and really kind of Cliff Note-y feeling to me. Even about the new people, which, well, again, it was interesting. Like, oh, okay, that was enlightening, but again, just really Cliff Note about every single person.
What's the one that Annika was super excited about? You got into one that she was texting me during because she was so excited about it.
So we went to A Beautiful Tomorrow, Just a Dream Away, Disney at the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. And the panel was moderated by Leonard Maltin,
That's pretty cool.
Which is pretty cool. And it also had like Pete Docter, Becky Klein from the archives, Tom Fitzgerald. He was, I think, the president of Imagineering for a long time. And they had Todd Ryan, who was from the Ford Motor Company. So he used to actually be at Coca-Cola as like their archives and then went to Ford. So he has like a long history with Disney and was able to go into the archives about Ford's participation in the World's Fair with Disney. And so the premise was really like, how was Disney involved with the World's Fair? And then how has it continued to impact the company even since the World's Fair? Like, how did it change the company and the way they did things? And obviously, like, it's changed, how we're going to do queues, how are we going to do ride design to be able to do higher amounts of capacity, and also in music and all these things. And so we had this panel, and then it seemed like it was kind of wrapping up, and then they're like, it was almost like, but wait, there's more. Let's bring out these other people. And so they brought out Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau from Marvel, and so many other things, but really to talk about how it informed Avengers 2 and or Iron Man 2, and how they wanted the music to be kind of that era, and worked with Richard Sherman, and how they wanted the Stark Expo to be like the World's Fair, and how it connected there. And then they had Michael Giacchino come out and he talk about the music as well. So it was fascinating. And of course, like, people were like, "What? No way!"
I know, she was into it.
Yeah, she was so like, "This is so cool."
Yeah,
because she was not. I mean, I think she's not necessarily a big fan of the World's Fair like I was. I was going. I wanted. I like.
You made her go to this one.
I made her go to this one. You can just say
like, we made her go to You made her. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, basically like, this is my one thing I want to do today, and the rest we'll do about you, but I want to go to this panel. This one's important to me. And we went, and she ended up not regretting that.
Yeah, I know. That was what was so funny about it. Yeah.
That was worth her time. But we also went to a Marvel Animation sneak peek. So that was looking at kind of the stuff they've been working on and they're going to continue to work on. She's big into the Marvel Animation and all of that world, and, X-Men 97. And there's, I think there's one that's like a short series from the Black Panther world, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming. So that was pretty cool as well. And then the last panel we went to was character voices, which, again, like, I was expecting more of a panel situation, and it was not a panel situation at all. So it started off where they actually pulled somebody from the audience. They basically said, okay, we need somebody, whose voice did they need it to sound like? Oh man, my mind's blanking. But basically they picked two people, and they're like, all right, you try it. Okay, you try it. Okay, we're going to go with number one or number two. And they did that for two different voices, sent them backstage, and then they brought out John Hanks, I believe his name is, Tom Hanks' brother. Cool. Oh, so that was right. One of the voices was for Rex. One was for Bo Peep. That was the two people that they brought up. And so they would basically they had these scripts, and they had them do character voices and do these little scenes in vignettes. And then they also did one with Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy. So it was Bill Farmer and Brett Irwin, I believe his name is, and I don't remember Minnie's name, but they brought them up and did another little scene and crazy stuff. And then they actually had a bunch of their other kind of multi-person voice actors come out, and they tried to do an inside-out version of Goofy's head, which is kind of hard to explain. So they would pause the scene that they were doing the thing, and then be like, all right, this is what's going on in Goofy's head with these character voices as if they were in Goofy's head. It's like anger and them different emotions and stuff like that. So it was kind of random and weird, but it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah.
But it was not what I expected, but it ended up being a lot of fun. Annika has some interest in becoming a voice actor in the future, and so she was very much into that. Plus, just seeing, like, the voice of Goofy and Mickey and Minnie and all that, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So, and the reason I glossed over it, but the reason why Tom Hanks wasn't there, well, because he's probably a busy guy, but his brother does all the voices for all the video games, all the toys, anything pretty much other than the feature movies is done by his brother.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's
pretty much
fascinating.
anything in the toy aisle, any video game, anything you hear, anything like. Basically, Tom Hanks is busy. His brother, not as much. So they basically hire his brother.
He's the understudy.
He is.
That's so random.
Yeah, it's been that way for a long time. I mean, as you can imagine, getting Tom Hanks to go into a voice booth and do recordings is probably harder than.
Yeah. Does he like it? Did he talk at all about like being second fiddle?
He didn't really talk about that, but I just have to imagine he's been making a pretty good living at it.
I know,
for
that's
a
what I'm
long
thinking.
time now.
Yeah,
So
without the being recognized every second too.
He does look a lot like his brother
he?
does. Like if you saw him, you'd be like, that looks like Tom Hanks, but I don't think it is Tom Hanks. But it looks like Tom. It's definitely very clear. And so yeah, it was pretty cool.
Huh? That's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I had known that before, but I realized that not all of our listeners may have known that. So
yeah, I didn't know that.
Well, there you go. You learned something new today.
Huh.
So that's a highlight of the panels that we did. Obviously, I usually do a lot more than that. I think that's all the panels that we did. Good overall, good panels. We were able to get into all of them. After the first day, I think it was towards the end of the first day. So I think we were waiting for something, and people were talking around us and to us about how I just went standby to this and I got in. Went to 3 panels and did standby and got in, and it wasn't a problem even though they didn't have reservations. And that seemed to be kind of a universal truth. And we showed up to the World's Fair one. I mean, it was starting as we were walking in. We got in line a couple minutes before that, and we got a seat. We were in the back in the corner, but we had a seat, and we got in. So we ended up getting into anything we did standby. We didn't get turned away. Yeah, we didn't get turned away from anything. So I felt all right, that was pretty good. I don't know that everybody had the same experience, but everybody we talked to did. So
that seems like a step up.
Yeah, I mean, you still may have had to wait. I mean, stuff in the premiere stage, which is the arena, we definitely got, if you wanted to be in that, you kind of had to be there an hour, I'd say, sort of the standby.
You've always been a fan of the small panels, though.
Yeah, I feel like there's, a lot of diamonds in the rough there.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like there were as many small panels this year.
Okay.
I don't know why. So that's kind of a high level of that stuff. What other stuff do you want to know about the expo?
We got to see Bluey and Bingo.
Oh, yes. So they were doing Bluey and Bingo. So that was supposed to be reservation only. They made a big deal about it, reservation only. But there was a standby line, and so we went and did the standby, and there was no guarantees. It's basically they have 30 minutes. At the end of 30 minutes, they're gone. And so if they're still doing reservations, they're still doing reservations. And of course, reservation people would just kind of all of a sudden pop in.
Yeah.
And so then you'd stop to stand by the reservation. So you didn't really know.
Yeah.
But we got lucky and we were able to take pictures with Bluey and Bingo.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, when they first announced this was going to be happening, everybody online was like, please bring this to the parks. This better be a test. And there clearly was high interest, high demand for this. If they don't bring it to the parks, it'd be a real shame.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't own Bluey, so that might be part of the problem. I don't know. But they should do it. It was clearly popular and it's going to be a thing. What other cool things? There was a TVA experience on the show floor. So
I didn't hear about that.
The time variance. And so it was an experience type of thing. So it was a pretty long wait, and then you went in, and some TVA soldiers would bring you in, and they were basically like, you're being recruited, so we're going to see, test you and see if you're good enough to figure out what you should be doing. So we went through that. There was, kind of room by room, and they were all very serious and in character. And then you got into a weird line. We didn't quite understand what it was. And they're like, okay, you can ask questions, just don't touch the portal, because the idea is there's a portal. And so you get to the portal and there's Rocket Raccoon.
Oh.
And you can interact with him like Turtle Talk with Crush type of thing, where it was Rocket, and you could ask him questions and say things, and he'd comment about the color of your shirt or your hat or whatever. And everybody was pretty frozen, like, what is going on? Nobody really knew they were not prepared for what that was, but it was pretty funny, as you could imagine, to interact with Rocket Raccoon. And then we got a badge about like what your assignment was going to be.
Okay.
And so I was a judge bench or something like that.
Okay.
And Annika got something else. So yeah, it was kind of a cool.
That's neat.
Little experience. We did do some shopping as well. Again, you had to do virtual queues for that. 4 a.m. and 1 p.m. virtual queues. Yes, that meant waking up at 3:50, 3:55, kind of waking yourself up and doing a virtual queue. And it used the Disneyland app. You had to use the D23 app. There was a button in the D23 app that would kick you over to Disneyland app to actually do the virtual queue portion. So it lived and used their technology. And so we ended up getting Mickey's of Glendale when, of course, that's one of my favorites to get Imagineering related stuff. Becky always appreciates that.
I always appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah, that was my number one thing. And then we got D23 Marketplace. But by Sunday, which D23 Marketplace was kind of like a lot of D23 branded stuff. They had a whole Ichabod series, a Haunted Mansion series. Mickey's of Glendale had a Sorcerer's Apprentice series, and then we did get into the Walt Disney Company store as well. Standby. By Sunday, I think even late Saturday, after all the virtual queues, it just went to standby, and it was pretty easy to get in. But a lot of stuff was picked over on Saturday even. There was a lot of complaints about that, about stuff being picked over and not being saved, like. I guess, they were only supposed to put X amount each day, and they started dipping into Saturdays already on Friday. So, it was not good.
Yeah. Always a thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find it all over eBay. If
all over eBay,
anything
for
you
sure.
want, go to eBay.
For sure.
And they will have it.
Yes. But the shopping went pretty smoothly for our experience. Yeah. There was, I'm trying to think if it's trying to condense it all down so that we're not doing just the play-by-play of every single booth and thing. Yeah. But they didn't have a huge, normally there's kind of like a big archives exhibit where there's all these kind of like costumes and props and stuff like that. And this year, they basically did a big car show. So cars from different movies. I
saw those.
So that was cool. And I think, for their sake, probably way more practical to have to set that up. It took up a lot of space. It was pretty spread out. People seemed to dig it, but I'm sure I would imagine was a lot less time consuming to design and set up than some of the previous ones that they've done. So it was something different.
Yeah, it looked cool. I saw a lot of pictures of people with all those cars. It looked fun.
Yeah.
So
I think that's about it. Any other questions that you have about the expo that I could answer?
Anything you want to know about the expo? You're asking the wrong person. Who's like, yeah.
Well, I know that you were seeing things and we were talking about things.
I mean, none of us went to the Honda Center. You can say that. They had a bunch of announcements from the Honda Center.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that.
Which obviously we were going to talk about. You didn't get tickets. You tried. You should maybe talk about that.
Yes. I tried to get tickets, and I did not get any that included the Honda Center. I tried because I didn't know. I felt like I'd rather get more than I needed than not enough, and especially because it was going to be Annika's first time. I wanted to try and make sure it was as cool as possible for her. We did not get that. And in the retrospect, I think
it was a good thing.
I know. Yeah, she was pretty burned out. I was pretty burned out. And
you guys were tired.
I mean, we went to the parks several of the days or after. We did Thursday before, and then we did Saturday and Sunday. So that was almost even too much.
I know. In retrospect, we shouldn't have done that.
But, it was... it was nice to be able to go. I mean, it's hard to be so close to the park and not go in.
I know. There's a lot that goes with that. And we can talk a little bit too in the next episode about how like some of that did work out.
Yeah. It wasn't bad. It just was, from a physical, like that many more steps of having to walk all the way over there from the convention center. But yeah, so there were some big announcements, obviously. So let's see, our movies was on Friday, theme parks and experiences was Saturday, and Sunday was the Legends. Movie wise, it seems like there are a lot of sequels that we're getting. There's mixed opinions out there on that. Like, do we need a Toy Story 5? I don't know that we do. I don't know.
Do you think we need a Toy Story 5?
Well, I think I saw that the premise was the toys were worried about going in the attic. Then there was the toys about getting donated, and then now it's toys versus the tablet, right? An iPad, basically. So like, how are they going to be relevant or still carry out in a
It's a great question.
So I don't, we'll see how it actually plays out if that's what they do, but that's what I saw. So
it's hard because you have to like still keep kids connected to these characters, right? Like you have to somehow still like build, like you look at Mr. Toad, right? Who we know, and even in the latest Disneyland parade, they have a Sword in the Stone float, right? And so Merlin is in there and Squire is in there, and like our kids, none of the three of them even know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know
which maybe that makes us bad parents. Right. I don't know. So you somehow have to keep some of these properties relevant enough. I would argue maybe those movies are classic enough. Like you can watch Toy Story 1 now and it's still a great movie. Like it's
pretty timeless.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and when they've invested in a Toy Story land, and you have Midway Mania, which is a big ride, like how do you continue to make people connected and aware of this IP, this brand?
Right. Yeah.
You kind of understand. Well, like Toy Story 5, it's probably going to print some money, like
it for sure will,
because then it'll also drive more merch. People are going to go buy the merchandise and more toys, and another age range is going to have it in their memory and. So it makes sense. You just hope you're always looking for new worlds.
I do like
stories.
new stories. I mean, I loved Encanto. We've loved Coco's had phenomenal success, right? Like, so I do think, Toy. It seems almost too easy to me. I guess
another Frozen movie, another Toy Story movie,
Put your foot out there and take a risk. Have other ones been as good? No, but some of them have been, and not everyone's gonna. Be a winner necessarily. So, which maybe in today's age you can't afford to not have them be a winner. So maybe that plays a role too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so then, of course, experiences. So 4 more cruise ships.
Woohoo! This is the one I'm the most excited about because more cruise rooms is better for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. More supply.
To deal with the demand.
With them, and maybe more locations and more like stability, and I think it will. I might be wrong, but I think it will help keep prices down. I mean, they're not going to be low ever, but I think it'll keep them manageable. Maybe that's the right word. I think it'll keep pricing manageable.
And they're gonna, like you said, different places. Like they're not all going to be in the Caribbean. Like they can't be. They're going to have to be, instead of having to ship one across to Europe, maybe one will stay in Europe. Australia.
Yeah.
I don't know where else.
I mean, we already know
places.
that one of them for sure is in Asia. So,
right.
I think that's good. As they expand that brand, I think that's good for everybody. I think it's good for the consumer too, frankly, because it will drive them to be competitive.
Right. Which will drive Royal to be more competitive.
Yeah.
And everybody, right?
Yep. So I think that's good. This is the one that's been like kind of a big deal, right? Is that they are going to put in some Cars attractions into Frontierland in Walt Disney World.
Yeah, that was it. People were pretty excited about that. It seemed
until
like
they weren't,
because it kind of looked like an off-road version of Radiator Springs Racers.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a short. I don't know if it was a Mater's Tall Tales or a car. Which series it was, but there was like was it the 500?
The 500 one, yeah.
Yeah, and so that one was kind of had an off-road thing, and you could imagine, okay, that could be cool. Like, so maybe somewhere between Test Track and Radiator Springs Racers.
Yep. Which would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they said, oh yeah, we're going to pull out the Rivers of America from Magic Kingdom and put it there. And that made people
and Tom Sawyer Island.
And Tom Sawyer. Well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, all that.
So that is going away for some Cars attractions, which, boy, they better make them good, right? Like, this better not be Bugs Land rides, like, that they bought off a catalog and plugged in there and put some theming on, I guess.
I think it's supposed to be 2 attractions, and they only really highlighted the one, which, like I said, seemed like Radiator Springs Racers Test Track somewhere in between or ish. But we don't know about the second one, so hopefully it's another e-ticket attraction.
Hopefully. We don't know.
But, I thought it was interesting because you actually, maybe we should not talk about it too much because we can save it for the next episode, but like you actually in Disneyland spent time on Tom Sawyer Island.
We went to Tom Sawyer Island this trip, which we have not done in years. Years. Emma had never been, and she's 9. So my kids begged to go over. Well, Drew wanted to go over. He wanted to go on the raft. And then we went over there, and we were not going back and forth to the hotel for a break in the afternoon, which we probably should have done, but we did not because I didn't want to walk that far. It's nice over there. It's really nice to have a break from the, chaos of Disneyland.
Right, the sensory overload.
So we climbed through the caves and we sat down on a bench that was shaded, and we had brought over some popcorn and some water, and it was a hot day. It was 93, 94 degrees, and so we took the raft over, just kind of relaxed. We were probably there for 45 minutes, just taking a break from everything. And it was actually a really good break for all 3 of us. We just needed a place to not be so overwhelmed. And I think for the kids to have things to just move about, and, I give them a little bit of freedom of, you can go down there by yourself and come back here, or go up to the treehouse and I'll wait on this bench. Like, they needed that space to go do things on their own. So it is a little bit of a shame that way. I hope they put something in, because they have that too in California Adventure with the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail. There is something to be said for having that kind of open, just like calm down space for people. That's still entertaining, but not like in your face overwhelming.
Right. I saw some posts online where people are talking about that, especially for like kids with different sensory needs, for sure. Or even just, typical kids. They need to be able to like kind of have that climbing around on things. There used to be more of that, especially even at Magic Kingdom, and a lot of that's gone away.
Yeah.
And that was one of the few places where kids could safely and legally climb on things and not get in trouble, right? That's what it's for. Climb on things and explore things and stand on, the top of it, whatever. Like, you can do that. You see kids in lines all the time where they're trying to do that with the railings and trash can or whatever. Like, they just kind of need to get that out of their system. They do. And that's a place they can do it. And so that's going to go away. So
I wanted to put together a reel so badly this trip of like my kids doing all the horrible things. So like I tried one day. This is a true story. We're in line for Buzz Lightyear and my kids are just fighting. I need to put together a reel of like just horrible things that happen in real life. So I like try to take a video of the 2 kids like just fighting, and I'm not kidding. One of my children sees it, gets so angry, knocks my phone clear out of my hand. Like it was a whole thing, fell on the ground. It did not break, thankfully, which would not have been good. But then like another time, Drew I'm not kidding. Sticks his tongue out one side of the railing to the other, runs his tongue down the whole side.
Oh,
I was like, what are you doing? But you know what? He did not do that on Tom Sawyer Island. But
There
he
you
did
go.
climb all over the trees.
Yep. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. There is an article that, if you know Deb Wills, she ran All Ears for a while, allears.net for a while, and she had posted on Facebook an article from Frommer's titled, Disney is about to gut Magic Kingdom. Fans are furious and you don't have much time. So it's a little bit snarky, in my opinion. But it kind of gets at a couple of things. So the first line is, we've had plenty of warning signs that the current management of the Disney brand doesn't understand or appreciate their roles of stewards of priceless Americana. So I thought that was a really interesting statement, that like the author here, Jason Cochran, wants Disney to steward what they own a little bit better. And I think there's probably a lot of fans who do feel that way.
Yeah.
I do think it's ironic. Like, all the fans who are complaining about, you're ripping out the Rivers of America are also probably going to be the ones that are going to stand in line for 5 hours to ride these attractions.
100%.
So if none of you show up, guess what? Like, they'll stop doing it. But
Right.
that's not going to be how it goes. So they kind of talk a little. It's worth looking. Like, if you're into kind of Disney and their what they're doing, and you have some feelings about the past, it is an article worth looking up. There was a couple other things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I have a coworker who goes to Disney World, every few years.
Yeah.
So they're not like diehard, but they definitely enjoy it, and it's a part of their family. And I mentioned that he was kind of like, so what were the big announcements? Like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know about the big, but the most controversial ones are this. And one of them, obviously I was talking about this, and he was like, whoa. He's like, there's so much nostalgia around that. And like people can't be happy about that. Like, that's a big deal that's just going to be gone.
I know.
So
I do hope they make that line then from Main Street to Big Thunder. Like, if I don't have to walk all the way around the Rivers of America, you better put a shortcut in there for me. Like, there better be a walking path.
yeah. I mean, part of me hopes that we just, like, yeah, there's concept art and stuff, but maybe we just haven't realized it yet. Like, maybe they'll do something like Big Thunder and was it Disneyland Paris, where like it goes under the water, and like,
Oh, that would be cool.
they could do something
Yeah,
like
they
that
could
where
do that.
we still have Rivers of America, but like it's
blended.
blended in
Yeah.
with it. So maybe we lose Tom Sawyer Island, but we still have River of America. Or
Yeah.
maybe we don't have the full picture. We have concept art, but that doesn't mean that if we know anything, we've been around long enough.
Right.
Concept art is not what we're gonna get.
Yeah. So this is the other interesting sentence that from the article. By mid-2025, while Comcast's new cutting-edge Epic Universe Park is opening to a barrage of global coverage, Magic Kingdom will be filling one of its most emblematic vistas with dirt. It seems unthinkable that a Disney executive could even consider this. So I just think that's interesting. Like, they do have to do something. Universal's just kind of blowing them out of the water right now, I feel like. I don't know if their stories are as strong for the entire family at Universal. I think that's one of Universal's challenge. Epic Universe is definitely helping with that, because I think Mario is pretty, like...
A little broader range.
Yeah, definitely a broader range. There's kids, as young as 5 or 6 definitely know who Mario is now. He's not Mickey Mouse.
Right.
So, but they are filling up with characters people love. Like, Harry Potter was a big deal that they got that, and people love Harry Potter. I mean, I love Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's an immersive world, and
they did it. They executed on it very well.
They did.
It wasn't just that they got the brand and the IP, but they executed on it.
Yeah, really well. And so I think there is a lot of competition coming from Universal. I'd love to see Universal Hollywood grow a little more to make it
similar to Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to because it's surrounded by
Right.
land. But boy, that would be a game changer for Southern California theme parks, I think. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it turns into. And you can complain all you want. Probably if you're complaining and following the news, you're still going to stand in the line. So that's what, like I will, right? We're going to go. We'll probably pay the $25 a person to ride the line,
Just because you want to experience it.
because I want to experience it, and I don't have 6 hours in Florida to stand in a line. So
No,
I'll give
who
you
does?
$125 for my family to ride this goofy ride and be done in 5 minutes and be like, oh, I could have lit that on fire. But yeah,
obviously there were a lot of other announcements. There was the Villains Land that's supposed to be coming.
yeah, that looks cool.
Dino Land's going away.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of stuff.
Indiana Jones
coming instead of
Animal Kingdom
to dinosaur. So I think I saw that it's gonna be like a South America theme for that area. So I think we'll see. We'll see what actually happens. I feel like if you look at like Fantasyland in Magic Kingdom of what they told us it was going to be, and then what we actually got. There was way big budget cuts of between what they originally told us. Not just that was concept art. No, like what they told us, not just the concept art, and what we actually got. Very different things, and I feel like there's a lot of examples of that, of what we thought or even Avengers, right? Like how many we've been told about the additional attractions there so many times.
Yeah.
And we still don't have it yet. And they're telling us there's going to be another one in Avengers Land, but
yeah,
when are we going to actually get it?
I don't know.
Or they cut the one from, Galaxy's Edge, so what are we going to add? There's all these announcements, all these things that are saying, where are we going to actually get? Then there's the other big kind of drama was Monsters Incorporated Land, which reportedly is going to go to the animation courtyard and would wipe out the Muppets. And so there's rumors that they had 2 different areas that they could put it, and one of them included Muppets and one did not.
Yeah.
And so due to the backlash, they might be considering.
Yeah, but here again, I mean, we kind of talked about this offline too. Like Muppets, Drew and Emma kind of know who that is.
Right.
We made Annika watch all the originals because we used to be better parents with our first child. And then we gave up. But, they've really struggled to stay relevant in the Muppets. And so
all of when we say that, we're referring to like all the recent shows, right?
Yeah.
The new shows, the new episodes. The movie, the one did well, the other one not as well.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see but you could argue, like, is Monsters any better? I mean, I do love Monsters. It's
sure
classic, but
is it still relevant, or is it going to stay relevant?
How do you decide what's going to be timeless and what's not? So I don't know.
I mean, I love the concept for the ride, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, we just, tried to do kind of a highlights of the expo. There's so much that goes on, so many announcements. We don't intend to be a news organization or cover every single little bit or piece, but wanted to at least go over some of the highlights and the top things that were of mind. So today, let's move on and talk about our magical moments for the week. My magical moment would definitely be just spending time with Annika at the expo and being able to share that experience with her. She's been curious about it and wanted to go for many years, and finally felt like, okay, she's old enough that she can hang and do this, because you have to have a lot of patience and stamina and kind of maturity, I think, to be able to kind of handle it. Like, yes, kids, I've seen younger kids there, don't get me wrong, and maybe, I just can't see it being fun as a parent with like taking any of our other kids. It just would not be fun. You could do it for short periods. You'd have to just do it way differently. But I would say she was at the right age. She was 13, felt like the right age. We kind of did some smaller cons, like I mentioned, to kind of warm up and make sure she kind of had an idea of how these things work and what the mechanics of it are and what to expect. But even then, it's still just bigger than pretty much short of San Diego Comic-Con. I think this is one of the bigger ones. I think
she's
there's
going to
bigger
want to
ones
do
out,
that some year too.
Yeah. So,
but she also has, I would say, the base knowledge to be able to appreciate it. Like not every 13-year-old has enough fandom,
right?
Like base to be able to be like, oh, I understand why this is a big deal.
But like, and it was cool to be able to be like, hey, do you see that person there? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, that's Bob Iger, the CEO. She's like, what? Yeah. And he's just, a few feet away from us going down the escalator. Or we saw Pete Docter or Bill Farmer or like Tony Baxter. Like all these people were feet away from us. Like we didn't bug any of them. But her mind was just blown that like all these big wigs, these important people were right there by us, or that she was even in the room with Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige, and like that was
that's pretty neat.
And Michael Giacchino and all that. So it was cool and really special to be able to do that. And like I don't know that I kind of expect that next Expo I'll probably want to do a little bit more of a mix of Expo Dave and Monica's type of thing. But this time
she'll be 15. It'll be a very different. Like you could almost split up at that point.
Almost, yeah. Especially if like I was thinking
once you're
about
in
it,
the
like,
show floor.
Once we're in the show floor, if she had a friend that she could like hang with, that would probably be good too, and they could.
Oh boy.
Do that, but yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yep.
We got lots of time.
Lots of time. Lots and lots of time.
What's your magical moment?
So my magical moment is very non-Disney and actually had nothing to do with me. But through a series of events, YouTube star Zach King ended up coming to our school this week. And so I helped organize. If you don't know who Zach King is, he does like editing magic. So you can Google him and he will do things where like he'll step on Legos and turn into Legos and then fall over. And it's clean content. Like it's very, you can let your kids watch it and not worry kind of situation. So he ended up coming to our school through a connection that we had. And I helped set up his stage and help make it possible for him to appear out of this video that he did. And watching like everybody's face, watching the kids, all 400 kids like lose their mind. Like they thought we were going to Zoom Zach King. It started as a Zoom video, and then he goes and tries to like look through some folders on his computer, and then all of a sudden folders start flying out from behind the screen, and then he like tries to cut his way out and a saw comes down from under the screen, and then all of a sudden Zach King appears, and the kids were losing their mind thinking that they were zooming Zach King, and then he shows up and it was pandemonium. And like even the staff who did not know, like their faces were just like, how is this even happening? So it will never be repeated, and I really didn't have anything to do with it other than just being willing to like put in a little, build a couple of things to help make it possible, and it was fun. So that was magical.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's pretty cool. Well, very cool. All right, I think that's. You know what?
What?
We have some stickers still.
Oh, we do still have stickers.
So if you would like a Mouse Ears in Paradise sticker, you can email us at mouseearsinparadise@gmail.com and put stickers in the subject line and include your mailing address, and we will ship one over to you.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I gave some out at the expo. We still have a few left. And you're looking at the one on my laptop.
Yep. I better send in an email so I get one.
I know a guy.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you want one, email us. I hope you all have a magical week, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Applause. Applause. We hope you've all enjoyed the show.